Aishlin. Welcome to Collection Cutdown. If you aren't sure what that is, I have linked up here and down there the introductory and explanatory video. So the short version is that, as you can see behind me, I have loads of DVDs. So I'm rewatching them all for this channel and reviewing them, and then deciding if I want to keep them. So today's video is about 7 seconds, starring Wesley Snipes and Tamzin Outhwaite. I know her from The Fixer, which is in here somewhere in my TV shows. So as you can see, this is an ex-rental. I'm not actually sure if I picked this up. Either it was me or my uncle, and he passed on to me, which he used to do a lot. That's how I acquired it. Funnily enough, lately I have been finding a lot of Wesley Snipes movies really cheap, whether, you know, in dollar stores or charity stores. I almost feel like he's stalking me, but that's fine. So we will get to quite a few movies of his through this channel. But yeah, so today we're doing 7 seconds. I saw this, I want to say about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, and I don't really remember a lot of it. I very purposefully haven't read the back of it, so as not to spoil the surprise, because I really do want to test myself to see what I remember of these films. I think that's part of the fun of doing this channel. What I do remember, I'm pretty sure there's a heist. I'm pretty sure Wesley Snipes is involved, so he's a criminal of some kind, and it goes wrong, and I think Tamzin Outhwaite is a cop of some kind. Literally all I remember. There's some banter. Anyway, so this is going to be interesting to see again, mostly because I have no memory of it, and so I'm not sure if I kept this because it was actually something I enjoyed, or because at one point I was thinking, well, I have all these Wesley Snipes movies now, maybe I should start a collection of his stuff, which is totally something I would do. Maybe I just kept it because of that. Unlike Van Damme and Lundgren and Michael Dudikoff, who no one but me has heard of, Wesley Snipes is one of those actors who he's never had one movie that's really just totally done it for me. And a lot of actors have that one thing, and I kind of just give them a pass for life after that. As much as I have mostly enjoyed some Wesley Snipes movies, there's never been the one that's just like exactly what I wanted. Probably the closest is the Die Hard on a plane one he did, Passenger 57. I am curious to see how this film holds up. He's done some decent movies, like, I mean, Blade's great. It's going to be interesting to see this film again and why I forgot it. So yeah, as I mentioned, Tamzin Outhwaite, I first saw her in The Fixer, this TV show with Andrew Buchan. And she was really quite good in it. So I like the team up of her and Wesley Snipes. Because she's in it, I'm presuming it was filmed maybe in the UK or somewhere in Europe, because she's English. So one thing I actually quite like about Wesley Snipes is that he tends to add comedy to his roles, like he's a bit quippy. And he's got decent comic timing, and I discussed in my 6 Bullets review, which I will link somewhere, that I quite like action movies that don't take themselves too seriously, and I think Wesley Snipes is pretty good at that. Like, he's kind of gold standard in that sense. So I am looking forward to hopefully seeing some banter in this, and yeah, really just seeing why I kept it and if it's still worth keeping, whether I do want to start a Wesley Snipes collection or continue the one that I'm accidentally doing anyway. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you all in an hour and a half. Okay, so I've just finished watching 7 Seconds starring Wesley Snipes and Tamzin Outhwaite. It's kind of hard going at times. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. He's former military. He did something, you're not sure what until later in the film. Was in military prison for a while, and it now leads a life of crime. He got together a group of people to do a heist on what I think is like casino money. The heist goes wrong. A second group of people, bad guys, sort of attack his bad guys, but the authorities think that he's the big bad, so he is running from both the guys who attacked him and the authorities. Tamzin Outhwaite plays a military police officer with NATO, and she kind of thinks that he might be telling the truth, that he's not the ultimate bad guy. So they end up kind of sort of working together, but also not, and sort of flirting while they do. Ultimately, of course, it all ends up well. True bad guys exposed, and good guys win, if you consider a criminal a good guy. The way the movie starts is they're on the way to the heist, and Wesley Snipes is kind of giving instructions, and then it sort of flashes forward while he's giving the instructions to what actually happens during the heist itself. Most of it goes quite well. This sort of flash forward, flash back type structure happens quite a lot through the film, and I think it's there to make it seem more interesting, and also to clarify things. For example, they'll be like, hey, it's you, and then they'll flash back to the last time that person was seen, and it just, that sort of thing happens a lot. Obviously the script must have been quite confusing, otherwise they wouldn't have needed to do that, and I think that kind of hurts the film. It's also one of those films where the characters do a lot of exposition in dialogue to themselves or each other in info dump ways that, you know, people don't naturally talk like that. But all of the characters in this movie talk to themselves in ways that's convenient for the viewer, and that just gets a little bit silly at times. As I said, the film sort of started on the way to the heist, and, you know, in movies like this where there's a big group of people and they need to introduce them all quickly, they give each of them sort of obvious one personality trait that is meant to make them likable or endearing, and it's kind of a substitute for a fully rounded character, at least initially. Sometimes, you know, they develop that more later on. So in this one, they're in this kind of, I guess, armoured vehicle on the way to this heist, and the group of people are sitting around and chatting, and it doesn't make me like any of them. Like, the topic of conversation is, it's a bit sexist, and it's just not very interesting, and it doesn't particularly endear me to the characters. So then when later the most egregious offender is kidnapped by the bad guys, his name is Sparky or Spanky or something like that, I didn't like him enough to learn his name. So he is kind of getting tortured and stuff by these bad guys, and I just didn't care. So that's kind of a problem if you've got limited time to make people like characters to give it more emotional impact later on in the film. I would not recommend starting with sexist jokes and sexist remarks. Alienates some of your audience. the other people in the armored car didn't really get much personality at all, so that was kind of a shame. And I know it's hard to do, but, you know, it's worth investing time, particularly in those early scenes. And sadly, in this case, that didn't really work. But that didn't mean that I didn't like any of the film. So I really liked Tamzin Outhwaite's character. I thought she was great. She was very capable, very confident, and very intelligent, and thought for herself a lot. Had a lot of agency, so was, you know, actually doing stuff that affected the plot. And, you know, I said that I expected some quips and some banter, and the best example of that is between her and Wesley Snipes in the film. They don't actually get a lot of screen time together, but they have phone calls where they kind of do this flirt banter thing. Doesn't always work. Again, it kind of descends into sexist stuff sometimes, but, you know, for the large part, it's fine. And but yeah, I really liked that her character was really in it and capable, and that's really great to see, to the point where I kind of wish she was the main character. Like, she was co-lead, so she had quite a bit of screen time, but yeah, I found her far more compelling than Wesley Snipes' criminal character. Not that I really mind criminals or assassins or whatever as the lead in an action movie. It's not a moral thing that I'm against it. I just, yeah, it didn't, for a guy who's kind of built a career on having these big personality characters, I found this particular Wesley Snipes character just not as interesting as some of the other ones. At least his scenes with her were quite entertaining. Their flirtation kind of made it pretty obvious that the, spoiler alert, the girlfriend of Wesley Snipes' character, his like partner in crime, she's also kidnapped by the bad guys. And the fact that he spends most of the movie flirting with another woman kind of tells you that the original girlfriend is going to turn out to be evil, right? Like, that's always the way it is. If you get a new love interest, then the old one has to be evil, so then you don't hate the hero for dumping the girl originally, particularly if she'd been kidnapped, you know? So, kidnapped. So, anyway, that's kind of, it was an obvious plot point, but, you know, classic for a reason, maybe? I don't know. Speaking of offensive elements, I guess, I thought that the portrayal of the villain was kind of insensitive. Like, he had some degenerative illness. I don't think they named it in the film itself. And I don't think it was the best portrayal. I mean, I'm not sure I expected sensitivity from an action movie, but, you know, to make the only disabled or chronically ill character in your film be the villain, kind of not a good look. So, a bit frustrating on that sense. Ironically, when I reviewed 6 Bullets last time, I found that it was filmed in Romania but set in Moldova, and this movie, I had no memory of it being shot or set in Romania, but turns out it was. So, like I said, that's kind of a common thing for low budget action movies, particularly of this vintage. Vintage as if it's old, it's like 14 years old or something, but anyway, so this Romania is popular, but you know, they're not always actually set where they're filmed, so it was kind of nice, like, that they didn't have to hide that the police had Romanian police written on the side and things like that. In 6 Bullets, I don't think that the low budget harmed the film very much, whereas in this case I kind of think it did. And I mean, I don't want to place blame, but I'm gonna blame the director. There was a lot of weird shots in it, particularly, like, I found some of the car chases confusing. Like, there was no sort of establishing shot to figure out which car was going in which direction, and, you know, it just was kind of confusing in the way it was either shot or edited. There was kind of some uncomfortable close-ups, like really close up, and it was weirdly done, because the one that I really noticed first was one of the antagonists, and I didn't really understand why he was getting like a super close up. And then the very next one, it was on Wesley Snipes, but at the time he was sort of talking to Tamzin Outhwaite's character, and the two of them were very flirtatious, and I kind of understood it because it was trying to build intimacy. And then I thought back to that other one, and I was like, well, if he's the antagonist and he's talking to Wesley Snipes, are they also building intimacy on that one? Like, anyway, it didn't quite work, I guess, is my point. There was also things like some of the dubbing wasn't particularly good. Like, so when I said I thought it was going to be set in England because Tamzin Outhwaite was in it, or maybe Europe, that tends to be what happens, is that they, for the main speaking roles, they'll fly over English actors into Europe. It's cheaper to fly them out than fly an American out. Most of the speaking roles were done by English actors. Not entirely sure why half of Romania was English, but that's fine. But then sometimes, like, you get some of the lesser characters and they still need speaking parts, and so sometimes they're just done with a Romanian accent, and I think that works better. But sometimes they're dubbed either by the actor themselves but more clearly, so the accent isn't as obvious, or by English actors, and that's like quite egregious. You can tell that that's happened, and that was kind of in a few scenes in this movie, so that was a little bit distracting as well. So, as I mentioned, there's a couple of car chases in this movie, and one is towards the beginning when Wesley Snipes' character first kind of takes Tamzin Outhwaite's character hostage briefly, like, to get away from the scene. And that was okay, if a bit confusing and not particularly interesting in the way it was shot. But then right towards the end, as they're escaping the villains, they have another car chase that's almost exactly the same. And her character even mentions that. She's like, oh, this again. And it's like, yeah, like, we've seen this before. Why is this getting repeated? So, yeah, I kind of found all that a little bit boring. Look, this movie, it wasn't great. Like I said, Tamzin Outhwaite's character was the best part of it, and I think she did a good job with the character. She was very compelling and charismatic and very strong. I just kind of wish there was more of her just being competent at doing stuff. So yeah, ultimately, I think my verdict on this one is probably not going to keep it. If I was doing a Wesley Snipes collection and getting all his movies, maybe, but like Steven Seagal, I think he's got a couple of really good movies, and the other stuff that I've seen doesn't hugely excite me, so I'm going to force myself not to start another collection and accept that this one is going to go. So for those keeping count, that means keeping one of the movies I've reviewed and giving away one. So not bad odds. Particularly considering I really am trying to downsize. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week we have a change of pace, and I'm doing classic 10 Things I Hate About You, and I have watched this a few times but not recently, so I'm interested to see how this one goes. But for now, Happy watching!